In the real estate space, if you're an investor in residential apartment buildings, you have, A, B, and C properties, and the A properties are the top of the line ones, the C properties are the sketchy ones, and the Bs are in the middle. And a lot of people like to go after the B sweet spot because in a market that's on fire, you have a lot of people from the C level who are competing to try to get up into your B properties. And in a recession, you have people who are getting out of their expensive A properties into your B property. Is there an analog to be made like that with housing markets as well? Meaning that, are there some markets that are going to fare better here because yes, they're going to have a certain price correction of people that are maybe leaving that market, but then they're going to have people that are arriving at the market because they're coming from a more high priced one like a Dallas, say.
100%. I love that analogy right there. Because I think the housing market works very much that way. And before telling you the cities that I think are kind of that B city today, that would be, if you want to buy, the better city to buy, I want to give some context. And that's that, Austin, Phoenix, Vegas, Atlanta, they were the B city.
They were the B cities.
They were the B city 3 or 4 years ago, right? Where they were really affordable when you looked at the metrics, both for a buyer from LA and for a buyer in Phoenix. Phoenix was affordable for both the out of town and the local buyer 4 years ago. And that has changed. So those cities that were the desirable B cities are no longer. They're too expensive. And ultimately, values are going to have to come down for them to regain that status of basically kind of attracting local buyers and transplant buyers. I think we have a new list of those cities today, and they're going to be in markets that, are a little bit unconventional. You're not going to really hear people talk about Oklahoma City too often in national housing market reports, but that's a city I think is in a great position for the intermediate to long term to really benefit, because the typical home value in Oklahoma City is $200,000. That's 1/3 the amount of Austin. And it's 6 hours up the road. And it's a city that's growing, actually has positive population growth and not too much home building. And so this is a place where the local, an 18-year-old or a 22-year-old in Oklahoma City, a lot of them can afford to buy homes because they're so cheap. But you're going to have now the transplant from Dallas or Austin moving there. This is a city that still offers nice amenities, good weather, outside of some tornadoes, and the people can afford a home. I think another market would be Columbus, Ohio, would be a place that I think is really well positioned as a city that has a lot going on, has a university. Ohio State has a good medical presence, has some tech, not too much tech, but a little bit of a tech scene. And the typical home price there is about $250,000. So if you're someone potentially in the Northeast, right, like New York, and before maybe you were looking to Raleigh's gotten too expensive. Columbus is not too far away, and you can afford to buy a home there. It's that B market that you discussed. It's going to see increased migration into the future, even though it still might see a correction. It's not that these markets won't see a correction. It's that they're better positioned for both the short and the long term.
If you enjoyed this video clip, click here to watch another one you should like.